Hey all, it's Carly. Welcome back to High Country Homesteading. Now that all of our chickens are at egg laying age, I thought it would be fun to go back and go over what it was like being first time chicken owners. We raised all of our chicks as day-old babies, so I feel like we definitely learned some things along the way, but overall we've had a really successful time raising our chickens, and I'm really happy about that, and I'm happy to share what our experience was like. But now they're all healthy adults. All of our youngest ones are about to start laying eggs, and I'm very happy with how it has gone. It's been easier than I thought. The baby stage is definitely took me back to having actual human babies, where you've got to just make sure every single day that they're okay and breathing and fed and watered. So that is a bit of a work, and it brought me back. But overall, we've had a really good time raising chickens, and they are definitely the gateway to feeling like you could do it all on the homestead. So first things first is we made our brooder. I am so happy with the brooder that we made. I have a video where we made the entire thing, and we got the inspiration from Carolina Coops, and this was the perfect solution for us. It was plenty big. It had ways to put netting on top for when they got bigger and could fly out, and that bar at the top is where we hung all of our waterer, our feeder, and our heat lamp, and that worked out perfectly so things wouldn't be knocked over. So the setup was easy. We just put our pine shavings down, made sure we had a good thick layer there so that they would have a soft place to sleep and live. And we used basically the deep litter method for the brooder. We never changed it out completely. We would only just add more litter on top as it got filled up with poop and water and things like that, and stir it around, and we never had a problem with smells. We put in the water. This is just a 5-gallon bucket, and we drilled holes in it and used the watering nipples from Carolina Coops as well, and the chickens had absolutely no problem taking to those and got water easily. We used a 7-pound feeder, and these are the very first chicks we brought home. We brought from 4 at first from a local farm, so this was just a straight run of someone locally who hatched chicks. We didn't know if they were males or females, and they were just a barnyard mix. We over time figured out what kinds they were, so that was a fun game to play, and looking up different chicken breeds. The owner had an idea based out of the color eggs that they hatched from, and we're really happy that we got a mix. We choose a mix of colors, and it was so fun to see what color they started at and then what color they grew into as their feathers grew. But when we first brought the chicks home, we made sure that we started teaching them how to use the water. They caught on to this very easily. We did give them some of the sugar water in the first day or two of their life. I can't say that they really drank it much though. It didn't seem it was terribly necessary, especially for the ones that we picked up locally, because they didn't have any kind of trauma from being shipped from a different location. So the water and the feeder that we use suffice fairly well. The feeder we just got from the local Tractor Supply, and we had absolutely no issues with it as well. We did put the water up on a block so that it would be very easy for the little chicks to stretch up and reach. We wanted to keep the area beneath them as dry as possible, and that worked really well. The feeder, as they got bigger, we would just hoist up on a rope over the top of the brooder and just lifted that higher and higher so that they wouldn't step into it. It's so fun watching all their little personalities and seeing how they grow. It was really important to us to make sure that we handled them every day, because as these chicks grew, this is our first batch, it's so much easier to handle them now as adults. Whereas our second batch of chicks, we handled them a little bit less as babies since we felt more confident. And now it's much harder to catch those chicks than it is our first batch, who I feel like are a lot more comfortable with us and the kids. So this is the inside of our chicken coop. Once we got our second batch of chickens, we needed our first batch to leave the brooder so that we could use the brooder again for the little tiny babies. So we basically turned the inside of our chicken coop into a brooder so that they could be kept safe and warm a little bit longer instead of having the full reign of the area. So what we did was basically cover up the hole that let them into the run, and we covered up the egg hutch so it was just an enclosed space with the mesh doors. And we kept a heat lamp in there just for a little bit of warmth since it was springtime, so it was still pretty chilly since we live in the mountains. But that worked really, really well. And the only thing we had to do was make sure we had ample pine shavings to make sure that there was no smell. So we brought our second batch of chicks home. These were mailed to us by Murray McMurray. We picked out the breeds that we wanted, and we knew exactly what they were. They were all supposed to be hens, and there was one surprise chick that we didn't know what it was, which of course turned out to be a rooster, but that's fine. He is happy and thriving, but we used the complete same setup. We cleared out everything from the first chickens and gave these chicks fresh everything. So we didn't introduce them straight into a pile of poop basically that the other chickens had left. We gave them clean everything and started fresh. So that little bottle of water had the sugar electrolyte water in it, and we dipped their beaks into each one, but we also had the 5-gallon jug of water as well for them to start getting used to. We did have one of the little chicks who had an injury on its toe. It was like a little bit of growth, and all the chicks were pecking at it incessantly, making it all red and sore. So we did separate him with some mesh wire for a little bit, gave him his own food and water, but it only for about 24 hours so that the chicks would basically forget about it. And by the next day, she was back with all of her friends. So that wasn't a big deal, but I felt so bad at first. So I wanted to make sure that she was able to heal a little bit and they would have time to forget about how fun it was to peck at her, and everything was good the next day. We started introducing them to grit right away. So in addition to their food, we put a little block of wood down, just a scrap piece of wood, and we poured some grit and also some Grobbly Farms treats on there as well. So we gave them a little bit of grit. They didn't eat it all ever, but we made sure to give them a little bit every day and start trying to give them treats right off the bat so that we could try to cultivate a good relationship with them so that when they're older, we can put our hand out with treats and that they'll come to us. We did have 1 or 2 chickens that had a pasty butt problem. It definitely wasn't all of them, which is nice, but basically what we did is either every day or multiple times a day until it was resolved. I used basically a hair dryer and this is for your eyebrows, but I had a clean one that we just put into a little bit of warm water, and we would brush their feathers to try to get rid of the blockage, and then make sure with the hair dryer very gently, make sure they were nice and dry before we put them back in the brooder. And we just checked on that frequently until the problem went away. But we didn't have any chicks get lethargic or sick or anything like that because we stayed on top of it. We did take them outside for some outside exploring time. Not every day, but when it was sunny, it was very chilly still. This was back in April. So anytime it was a nice sunny day, we would take them out to explore, and so they could get used to the outside and their surroundings. They took to pecking the ground right away and didn't explore far, stayed pretty close, but they were definitely happy to be outside. This is Susie. She's a spotted Sussex. She is my favorite. This is Pearl. She's actually a blue Andalusian, but she's an interesting one called a splash. So she's mostly white, which is very interesting. Our other blue Andalusian, her name's Cora. This is our surprise chick, Mario, who turned out to be a cuckoo Moran. This is Delilah, our silver-laced Wyandotte. Here we have Betty, our Buff Orpington. Here we have Cosette. She's a Colombian Wyandotte. It really is so satisfying to see them grow and their colors of their feathers come in. It's fun to see how their colors change. We at first didn't think Pearl was a blue Andalusian because she was so white. We thought she was the surprise chick, but turned out that we had a different surprise chick that turned out to be a Cuckoo Moran, and he was a rooster and she was a hen. So it's like a fun guessing game, wait and see kind of situation. But they loved having outdoor time. We took them to different areas of the yard. The kids loved bringing them grasshoppers to feed them and have them snatch out of their hands. They took to chasing things like moths right away. They would run after them. And we didn't yet introduce them to our bigger chickens until much later down the road when they were about 8 weeks or so. So for now, they were just their own little unit of 7, and then we had a unit of 4 that was inside the chicken coop. So as the chickens got bigger, we still continue to make sure that they have grit every day when they want to. We just put it out on a scrap piece of wood, or inside their chicken coop, there's some cement blocks that we sprinkle it on, so they always have access to it when they need to. The 2 black chickens here are Poppy and Polly. The gray chicken we thought was a hen for a long time, but turned out to be a rooster, and his name is Giuseppe, and the colorful rooster is named Philippe. As for the chicken coop, we have a full chicken coop build series that I will link in the description for the full playlist, where we showed how we built this chicken coop step by step from the ground up, completely on our own, and we're super happy with how it turned out. This happened to be a particularly rainy day, but it does keep them nice and dry. And we set up this little hanging basket since it's finally garden season in the summertime, and I cut down a bunch of my leafy greens and put it in the basket as another treat for them to eat. I have noticed though, chickens are supposed to be such a great use for scraps and not having waste for food, but my chickens are free range. They have about 2 acres or so that they get to free range and eat bugs, and they really don't care about food scraps, which I'm disappointed about. I thought they would eat a lot more of them, but I think they're so full from all the bugs that they get to eat all day. I'm sure if they were chickens that were not free range and they were left in their run, they would probably need that source of nutrition a lot more than they do. But since they are free range, they must get so many bugs that they get full because they don't really like to eat the fruits and vegetables that I give them. But that's okay, still give it anyway as an option. We did have to put some mesh under the chicken coop because they would hide under there when they were little and not come back out or go to sleep in the proper place. So we covered that up, and this was us getting an egg for the first time. Polly was the first one to lay an egg. She lays a brown egg. She is half Moran and half salmon Faverolles, so she gives these nice brown, almost a little bit terracotta color once you run them under the water. And we also get green eggs now from Poppy, so she's half Moran and half Americana, so that's fun. And there they all now, nice in a little integrated group. They run around the yard all day, just move from place to place. They love getting in my compost pile, looking for bugs. They come to the front of the house. They do come on the porches that, we haven't had to clean too often, but that is one of the things that they like to do when they're free-range chickens. But they've got along nicely. We're really happy with the chickens that we have. We don't have any mean roosters, which is super nice. And they do like to crow pretty early in the morning, but we've changed the automatic door to where it doesn't open at first daylight, but it opens at a certain time of the morning. We have it set to 7 a.m. because that's when we know we'll be awake. So any crowing they do in the morning is basically muffled a bit because it's in the back of the house, whereas when we had it opening at the crack of dawn, they would start crowing right outside of our windows at the front of the house. So we made that little change, and that's gone much better for us. So let me know if you're interested in getting chickens or have any questions about first-time chicken keeping. We're happy to answer them in the comments. And yeah, I'm happy to share our journey with you. It's been fun and we're super excited. We think we've finally bought our last carton of eggs from the grocery store, and will have for a long, long time. So I'm super excited about that, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.